At this point in War Thunder's development, I wish Gaijin would back away from adding modern vehicles for a bit. They won't, because it's a great way to make money, but I wanted to make a list of older vehicles that could be added instead. This is something I'm actually pretty excited to do, since there are a lot of options, and most of them are pretty well documented. There's no, this is so new that no one really knows what it's capable of, but we can guess stuff. Anyway, let's get into it. First up is the T23 HVSS, an experimental American medium tank. The T23 was a part of the same program as the T20 medium tank. Instead of the torquematic transmission found on the T20, the T23 used an electric transmission. This allowed it to be more maneuverable overall, and also allowed it to reverse at its absolute top speed. Later T23 models would have improved armor protection over the T20, having an upper front plate that was 3 inches thick, while the T20 had 2.5 inches. The electric transmission did greatly increase the T23's weight, so a variety of different suspension solutions were sought out. In 1945, 3 T23s were fitted with the M4's horizontal volute spring suspension system to see if that could fix the ground pressure issue. While the HVSS system did fix the problem, the T23 program was still cancelled. The war was obviously coming to an end, and the T23 didn't offer a significant advantage over the M4, not to mention being unreliable and difficult to maintain. But the T23 program wasn't a complete waste, since the turret was used for 76mm Shermans. In-game, it would essentially be a T25 with a 76mm gun. The T23 does weigh about a ton less, but it wouldn't result in any significant mobility gains. It could also be described as a 76mm Sherman that is lower profile, more mobile, and has more hull armor, with a smoke mortar to boot. I'd personally place it at 5.7, so that the M4A376 can move back down to 5.3, since it in no way deserves that BR. The torsion bar version of the T23, the T23 E3, could be a premium vehicle. A couple years ago, I made a forum suggestion for the T23 HVSS, so if you want more information on it, you could check that out. Next is the T43, a Soviet project that's an odd blend of a medium and heavy tank. The T43 was supposed to be a sort of universal tank, which would eventually replace the T34, since a number of key issues have been identified with the latter. The T43 would use a torsion bar suspension system, 5-speed transmission, improved armor, an enlarged 3-man turret, and the same 76mm gun used by the T34. All of these put the T43 at around 34 metric tons, which was considered to be overweight. Despite this, it was about as mobile as the T34, and the new turret greatly improved the tank's rate of fire. The upper front plate was 75mm thick, which is a pretty significant increase, since the T34's was 45mm thick. The sides may have been as thick as the front plate, but I'm not entirely sure. The cast turret was around 90mm thick. The requirements of the program changed rapidly as the war progressed. This meant that the weight of the T43 could have risen as high as 39 tons, so the program was scrapped. Overall, I think it'd be pretty similar to the T14 assault tank or the Sherman Jumbo, a heavily armored tank with a subpar but fast-firing gun, though it would be more mobile than both. It would have some pretty obvious weak spots with the exposed turret ring and mantlet, but I think a battle rating of 4.7 would be appropriate. I thought it would make for a good premium at first, but Russia doesn't really have any 4.7 vehicles in its tech tree, so it should probably be a regular vehicle. Next there's the AC3 Thunderbolt, an Australian medium tank. When Australia was preparing for a possible Japanese invasion, they realized that they would need tanks capable of going toe-to-toe with Japanese armor. This resulted in the AC-1 Sentinel, a tank that was somewhat based off the M3 Lee. The AC-1 was armed with a 2-pounder gun, which was eventually deemed insufficient for anti-tank use. It was also concluded that the armor was too thin. Eventually the program led to the AC3 Thunderbolt, which had a more powerful engine, better armor, and a 25-pounder gun. The 25-pounder was chosen primarily for its anti-tank capability, but was generally seen as a good multi-purpose gun. The 25-pounder used multi-piece ammunition, with the most powerful charge combination having an estimated 120mm of penetration. This could have very interesting gameplay implications. You could have different charge levels that vary in reload time and penetration, so if you wanted to hit a light vehicle right away, you could load a smaller charge. Since the turret is pretty small, and the 25-pounder doesn't use single-piece ammo, the max reload time would be pretty long. In that case, it could be one of those low-tier tanks that is decently armored and has a hard-hitting gun, but also has a pretty long reload. Aside from the gun, the AC3 is pretty similar to the AC4. I would make it a 3.3 event vehicle, which is good since Britain has exactly one vehicle at 3.3. Finally, there's the Skank. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about it. You know what it is, you know how it works, and I'm just including it so people stop bugging me about it. Just put it in the British tree at 4.0. And that wraps up the video. As always, hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one.